Gentlemen, it is Monday, June the 3rd, 2019, and it is time once again for a Biggs review as another week has come and gone. It is, another crazy week here, a lot of moving, a lot of shaking, a lot of, but not so much at the top, a lot of guys just sort of staying put, and a couple of teams are starting to distance themselves from the pack. And we'll get to those in a little bit here. But let's get this thing started. Let's get this thing underway right away here. We're going to kick it off with the first place team, Stanton Room only James McCloskey, who took on Nick Homan's The Beavers. James was number 1 coming into the week, and the Beavers were number 14 coming into the week. James took this down, and quite handily, as a matter of fact, 16-2. Coming into the week, James had won 5 of his last 6, and Nick had lost 3 of his last 5. And to be honest, it's one of those situations where you look at it, and it's. I don't think it was ever close. I mean, after Monday, James led 9-3, and he finished it 16-2. This was never a close matchup. This was never a 10-9 situation. This was 15-2 and 14-4 throughout the whole thing, and James just kept the pedal to the metal. And it's another week that James continues to dominate. For the week, James left 7 for 25 on his bench. That's a .280 batting average, 3 runs, a home run, 5 RBIs, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts, none of which really mattered. The two home runs that he left on the bench, 2 home runs he left on the bench, came on the same day. It looks like they came on Friday. He went 5 for 11 that day. Kevin Kiermaier hit a 2-run homer on the bench, and Kike Hernandez had a solo shot on the bench. I'm not gonna bash any of his picks or any of his choices. The guy won 16-2. I mean, to sit there and nitpick would be pointless. Close categories this week. James won by a save. Nick won by a strikeout, and they tied in triples and strikeouts by a pitcher. Ads this week for James. I was going to come on here and looking at it Monday, I was going to come on here and I was going to yell at him for streaming Ivan Nova. But this guy has somehow put together like the most ridiculous streaming series of choices lately, and Ivan Nova going up against Kansas City at home, it worked. It worked. He went 5 innings, 2 strikeouts, and only 1 earned run. So it's about as good as you can ask for. In fact, this week, he streamed 4 pitchers. Ivan Nova, Lucas Sims, Tyler Beatty, and Sean Anderson. And he did pretty well with them. They all pitched to a 2.84 ERA, 2-0 record, 19 strikeouts, 4 walks, and 2 homers. That's all you can ask for. That's all you can ask for. When you pair that with guys like Hyun-Jin Ryu and Charlie Morton and Sonny Gray this week, it's no wonder that he pitched to a 3.5 ERA. Like, he won every pitching category. And some of them weren't even close. For Nick, Nick went 3 for 13 on his bench. That's a .231 batting average with a double, 3 RBIs, and a walk. Nothing to write home about as far as his ads or drops are concerned. Playing Julie Chassin this week was pretty awful. It looks like he got lit up. 2 2/3 with a loss and a 23.63 ERA. That did not even make the worst starts of the week. That tells you what kind of a week we had. Key players this week for James. It's going to be Hunter Renfroe. Hunter Renfroe had a big week. Looks like he hit 385 with a 467 on base percentage, 4 runs, 3 homers, 4 RBIs, 2 walks, and 3 strikeouts. For his 4th outfielder, it looks like this is probably going to be the replacement for Joey Gallo, who hit the DL this week with an oblique injury. And for a guy who's sat there and looked at Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton on his DL all season, to finally get some playing time for Hunter Renfroe is going to be huge, especially if the guy continues to hit. He's got 17 homers and 33 RBIs this year, and he hit 2 home runs back on the second. So last night, like I said, this could really turn into the guy to replace Joey Gallo for the short term, or until he gets, Judge and Stanton back. You pair this guy with all of the other power hitters that he has on this roster, and he might not miss a beat. Byron Buxton also had a good week. He hit 375 with a 412 on base percentage and filled up the stat line. 5 runs, a double, a triple, 2 homers, 6 RBIs, a stolen base, a walk, 4 strikeouts, and an error. James won stolen bases 6-1 and tied in triples at 1 apiece. Buxton is absolutely having the breakout season that we all thought he would eventually have. He has 10 steals, he has 6 homers, he has 31 RBIs. He's well on his way to somewhere around a 15 home run to 25 to 30 stolen base season with a decent average. His run totals are probably not going to be the best because he hits at the bottom of the order. He's hit 9th every single day for this Minnesota lineup. But the Minnesota lineup is clicking, and it's clicking on all cylinders. So it's definitely a situation where if the top of the order somehow starts to struggle, they can just move Buxton to the top, and that would be huge for James. As well, Cody Bellinger, 308 batting average, 400 on base percentage, 3 runs, a double, 2 homers, 4 RBIs, 4 walks, and 3 strikeouts. This was going to be C.J. Cron as well, but C.J. Cron, he hit 300 and he had a 364 on base percentage. He just had too many strikeouts. He led the team other than Gallo with 8 strikeouts, and considering that James lost by 1 strikeout for the week, I couldn't justify putting C.J. Cron in there. The team is hitting. The team is hitting on all cylinders. There's no looking back. He leads the league by 5 games. He's the best team in the league so far, and we're 2 months into the season, so it's a pretty big sample size. Pitching-wise for James, it's Hyun-Jin Ryu again, 7 2/3 of shutout ball, a win and 7 strikeouts. This suddenly has turned into the Dodger ace. I don't know a single person who saw this coming other than James, who is a huge Dodgers fan, so I'm sure he's thrilled with this. Hyun-Jin Ryu has given up 2 earned runs in his last 5 starts, all wins. Doesn't have less. Well, he had 3 strikeouts in that 2 earned run start against Pittsburgh on the 25th of May. Otherwise, they're all shutouts. He's given up 3 walks in that time. One of them was a complete game against Atlanta. He's just absolutely been on fire. He's pitching to a 1.48 ERA, a .81 WHIP. He's just gross. And it's yet another reason. If you pair all of the great streaming options that James has had and this ace pitcher on his team, he's absolutely been unstoppable. Taylor Rogers got him a save this week, and considering it was the only save of the matchup, I'm going to highlight him. He went 5 1/3 over 4 relief appearances. Did give up a few runs, but he had 7 strikeouts over that time and a win. And, of course, that save. It was interesting because he struck out the side on that save. And I'm not entirely sure that the Twins are the Twins don't exactly have a set closer. They went out and got Blake Parker in the offseason, and you would have thought that would have been the guy, but it doesn't look like he's been the guy this year. He doesn't appear to have the lockdown stuff that they paid for. And it wouldn't surprise me now with the 3rd of June upon us that they go out and spend the money and get Craig Kimbrell to lock down that bullpen, because they're in this thing for real. Like, they are absolutely in the playoff hunt. They're the best team in baseball so far, and it's definitely worth signing Craig Kimbrell to lock down their bullpen. It would come at the expense of guys like Taylor Rogers and Blake Parker, but to put a really great closer on the best team in baseball this year, it just makes too much sense not to happen. Finally, Sonny Gray. He went 11 innings over 2 starts, a win, a loss, 11 strikeouts, 3 walks, a 2.45 ERA, and a 1.18 WHIP. The starts were against. They were both at home, one against Pittsburgh and one against Washington. Looks like he only gave up 3 earned runs across the whole thing. 2 of those against Washington in the loss. The better start was the one against Pittsburgh, which was the back half of a doubleheader. He went 6 innings with a win, 7 strikeouts, 1 earned run. Sonny Gray is suddenly pitching like the Sonny Gray we saw in Oakland. And maybe it was just New York. New York isn't for everybody. It wasn't for Randy Johnson. Maybe it wasn't for Sonny Gray. It's completely realistic. For Nick, it's DJ LeMahieu this week. His key players, DJ LeMahieu hit 2 homers, drove in 7, hit 269 with a 321 on base percentage, 5 runs, 2 walks, and 4 strikeouts. It's hard to find guys on this team because his team didn't hit all that well. He only hit 236 for the week. He only won 2 categories, one of those being strikeouts, which just means James got more than him. But he did win runs, and Andrew McCutchen is probably the reason why. Andrew McCutchen may have only hit 238 with a 360 on base, but he did have 8 runs scored with 2 homers and 3 RBIs. McCutchen has very quietly been the catalyst at the top of that lineup that has kept Philly going despite all of the Bryce Harper struggles. The DJ LeMahieu scored 5 runs. Other than that, Miguel Sano was decent this week. He hit 278 with a 409 on base percentage, 4 walks, 4 doubles, 2 runs, 2 RBIs. But he had 8 strikeouts. It just wasn't a good week for Nick, who falls somewhere close to 40 games under 500. Pitching wise for him, again, not the greatest. He pitched to a 6.17 ERA with 8 losses. He did tie in strikeouts, so I guess you point to a guy like Caleb Smith, who threw 5 innings in a loss, gave up 2 homers, 2 walks, but struck out 8 guys. Jacob deGrom pitched well, 11 2/3 across 2 starts, both on the road in Los Angeles and in Arizona. Both no decisions, to his credit. He had 9 strikeouts across that time to a 2.31 ERA and a 1.20 WHIP. And finally, Wade Miley, 7 innings, a loss, 9 strikeouts, a 2.57 ERA and a 1 WHIP. Again, it's just a rough week for Nick. He picked up Marco Gonzalez, who pitched poorly. He picked up Julius Seen, who pitched poorly. He streamed Cole Irvin. It just wasn't working for him this week. And he's got a big hole to dig himself out of now that he's fallen to the bottom of the pecking order. I talked about James's streamers. I'm going to run through those again really quickly. Ivan Nova, 5 innings, 2 strikeouts, an earned run, and a no decision. Lucas Sims, 7 1/3, 4 earned runs, 9 strikeouts, and a win. That was the worst one, and yet it was the one with the most strikeouts, and it got him a win. Tyler Beatty, 6 innings, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts, 1 earned run, no decision. That start, I believe, was in Baltimore. And Sean Anderson, same thing, 7 innings, a home run, a walk, 4 strikeouts, 2 earned, and a win. I believe that start was also in Baltimore because the Giants played Baltimore immediately following the Marlins. And I'll get to the Marlins and the Marlins and Giants series in a minute. It sounds on paper like garbage, but if you knew how to exploit that series, you did pretty well with it. James improves to, he holds on to that top spot. He's now 50 games over 500, 5 games clear of the rest of the league. he's doing a fantastic job this year. He's definitely showing the rest of us what he's capable of. You know, you saw glimpses of this in the past with this guy. You know, he made it all the way to third place. It was either last year or the year before, and he ended up getting his account hacked, and we ended up losing him for the rest of the season, or the majority of the rest of the season, and he fell from third all the way to the bottom of the pack. You know, this is the season where James came into this season saying that he wanted to prove to everybody that he belongs in this league, and he's absolutely doing so. Kudos to you, sir. We move on. We move on to yours truly, who was in second place this week, and I was taking on Andy Solar Greco, who was number 8 coming into the week. Now, I had lost 2 of my last 3 matchups, and Andy coming in had lost 4 of his last 6. So both of us were looking to get off of the schneid this week. And once again, just like last week, I double up my opponent 14-7. Close categories this week. I won by a homer, a loss, and a walk. Andy did not win anything too incredibly close, and we did not tie in anything. For me, it was an interesting week on my bench. I had to play a lot of things differently than I would have liked to. For the week, I went 11 for 53. That's a 208 batting average, but that really doesn't matter because the 11 hits that I had, 7 of them were extra base hits, 5 of them were doubles, 2 of them were homers. I left 5 runs on the bench and 11 RBIs with 8 walks and 12 strikeouts. Now, I won all of those categories. Runs, doubles, homers, RBIs, walks, and strikeouts. I won all of them. But it would have been a lot more interesting if I was to say, have the Michael Conforto grand slam that I left on my bench. Now, why would I leave Michael Conforto on the bench? Well, Stephen Piscotty is hitting really well. Michael Conforto is just coming off of, I don't think it was a DL stint, but he was, he was on the DL for the concussion. So he was just coming off of that. It was on the road in LA, and it was against a lefty in Rich Hill. And the home run did not, the grand slam did not come off of Rich Hill. The grand slam came off of a reliever. But it was quite difficult for me to justify putting Conforto into that lineup with as hot as Juan Soto was, who was riding a 14-game hitting streak, with as hot as Tommy Pham was before he pulled his calf muscle, and as hot as Stephen Piscotty was going lefty-lefty on the road. As well, Frankie Lindor on Tuesday went 1 for 3 with a double and 2 RBIs on the bench. Ordinarily, you don't bench your second-round pick almost ever. But the game was in Boston, and it had that really long rain delay, and I was kind of thinking that either A, the weather was going to play a factor, and it was going to be a very low-scoring game, or it might get rained out completely. And it didn't, and it was still a high-scoring game at 7-5. I can recall quite clearly that on Friday I was talking to Frank, and I was torn between playing Javi Baez, who I will talk about later on today, or playing Matt Chapman at third base. And he says, you got to play Baez. He's facing Miles Mikolas in St. Louis. And I'm like, yeah, but Chapman's been really good. And he's at home. It was against Houston. Anyway, Chapman hit a 2-run homer. Javi Baez struck out 4 times. That's why I'm where I am, and Frank is where he is. Moves for the week. I loaded up on starting pitching this week. I picked up Nick Pivetta very early when it was announced that he was coming back, especially for his start against St. Louis. I wanted to see what he was capable of. I was willing to take the risk of eating a bad start just to see, because this was a hype guy coming into this year. He was a guy that we thought could break out, and he came out the chute and was awful. Like, there's no two ways about it. He was absolutely dreadful. And they sent him down to AAA, and he dominated, and now he's back. He had a really good start against St. Louis, despite the first inning that was kind of rocky. And his next start was against the Dodgers on Sunday, and I'm like, you know what? Just sit on the bench. I'm not going to start you, but I don't want to drop you yet, because if he has a good start against the Dodgers, he might be just the pitcher I'm looking for. Spoiler alert, he did really good against the Dodgers. 9 strikeouts, 6 shutout innings. The team lost the game, but the bullpen blew it. Not him. As well, I streamed Trevor Richards and Pablo Lopez against the Giants. They were fantastic streamers. For Andy, we'll move on to Andy. He went 6 for 26 on the bench. That's a .231 batting average. 4 runs, a double, 2 RBIs, 3 steals, 6 walks, 5 strikeouts, and 2 errors. He won stolen bases by 3, so I'm not going to get on him too hard about the 3 stolen bases that were on the bench. He didn't. The 4 runs would have made the difference. He would have won runs with that. But he did a great job this week as far as keeping it close. It was a lot closer than the 14-7 says. He only made 1 roster move this week. He picked up Oscar Mercado, who's a pretty good prospect. He's definitely suddenly the best outfielder that Cleveland has. Key players this week, for me, it was Matt Chapman. 320 batting average, 370 on base, 3 homers, 4 RBIs, 5 runs, a double, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. But the perennial Gold Glove guy and the guy who was like arguably the best third baseman defensively in baseball last year, he had 2 errors last week. Strange. There's also Jorge Alfaro. Now, Jorge Alfaro, I picked up off the waiver wire, I don't know, very, very early on in the season. This was the guy who was kind of the big name that was in the JT Realmuto trade. And all he did this week was hit .750 on my team with a homer, 3 RBIs, 2 runs, and a double. There was a day he went 4 for 4 with a double and 3 singles. He's absolutely been on fire. He's hitting .278. He's got 9 homers. He's got 23 RBIs. And between him and Willians Astudillo, I've got a really solid pair of catchers that I could ride all season. Finally, it's Juan Soto. Again, the 14-game hitting streak may have come to an end on Saturday, but he's been absolutely lights out. 333 average, 429 on base percentage, 9 runs scored, 2 doubles, 2 homers, 3 RBIs, 4 walks, and 7 strikeouts. Pitching-wise, you'd be surprised who I'm going to throw at you here. It was Trevor Richards, 7 innings, 1 earned run, 5 strikeouts, a walk, and a home run. It's a 1.29 ERA and 0.43 WHIP. For a guy that faced San Francisco at home, that start was so juicy, and he's only given up 2 earned runs over his last 3 starts, and he's gone 2-0. And he's got 19 strikeouts over that time. Shane Green looks like single-handedly won me the saves category, despite also getting 2 from Hansel Robles. But Shane Green, 2 relief appearances, 2 clean innings, both saves, 3 strikeouts, a .50 WHIP. Finally, Pablo Lopez. That was the other guy I streamed against San Francisco this week. 6 innings, 5 strikeouts, a walk, a homer, a 1.50 ERA, and 0.83 WHIP. He did not get the win. It was a no decision, but it was a really solid start. And the thing about Pablo Lopez, he has a really good start and then a really bad start, but then a really good start and then a really bad start. This is the same guy I streamed against the Mets on May the 18th, and he went 7 innings, 7 strikeouts, and a win. But that was immediately following the 10 earned runs over 3 innings start that I streamed him. He's a nightmare to own. So if you can find spots with that guy, he's going to be really good. He's going to be really good. The Marlins definitely have a nice 1, 2, 3 of young pitchers. And it might even be 1, 2, 3, 4 if you count Sandy Alcantara. But it's been a roller coaster with those guys. For Andy, Adalberto Mondesi once again leads the charge for him. A 259 average, a 333 on base, and he filled the stat sheet. 5 runs, 2 doubles, a triple, a homer, 1 RBI, 3 steals, 3 walks, 7 strikeouts. He won stolen bases by 3. Absolutely has every reason to win that category week after week with Adalberto Mondesi in the lineup. Corey Seager also had a good week. 318 average, 423 on base percentage, 5 runs, 3 doubles, 2 homers, 5 RBIs, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts. Seager is very quietly starting to put it together. He came off to a slow start, and you can kind of understand that. He missed an entire year with Tommy John surgery. So to see him starting to pick it up now, he's hitting 246 on the season, 7 homers and 29 RBIs. You can see him starting to put it together, and if he can get going, and Cody Bellinger can keep doing what he's doing, those first-place Dodgers are just going to run away with that division. Finally, Nomar Mazara, a 414 average, a 452 on base percentage, 8 big runs, a double, 2 homers, 6 RBIs, a steal, 2 walks, and 3 strikeouts. Pitching-wise, it's Justin Verlander again, man. This guy might be the best pitcher in baseball when all is said and done. 8 innings, a win, 1 earned run. It's another solo homer. That is the one thing about Verlander this year that I just can't figure out. He's given up a home run in all but one of his starts, and yet he's 8-2 with a 2.27 ERA. It's like he goes out there and every time out he's like, okay, here's 1 solo homer. Do you guys think you can get me 2 runs? It's insane. There are so many outings where he gives up 1 earned run and it's a solo homer. He might lead the league in home runs given up. It wouldn't surprise me. Matt Strahm also had a great game for him. 6 innings and a loss, but 10 strikeouts. The start was, it was in New York, so you can't really be surprised that he got the loss there. He did give up 3 earned runs, so it was a quality start. Gave up 2 homers, 3 walks, a 1.17 whip. It was a solid start. It's just it's in New York, so. And finally, Spencer Turnbull, 6 innings, 1 earned run, only 2 strikeouts, 1 walk. He got the win. The start was against Atlanta in whatever they call it now, SunTrust Field. It was just a solid start. I mean, this kid has pitched to a 2.84 ERA. I streamed him first start of the year, and I was in New York with Benji at the time, and he struck out 10 over 6 innings, and Ben's like, "You're going to drop him?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's on Detroit. He's terrible. You know, I may have gotten the best start he's had all year. And Ben told me, he says, it'd be really hard for me to drop that guy. And part of me really regrets dropping him because, he bounced around the league a little bit, but since Andy got him on May 1st, he hasn't let him go, and I don't blame him. In a rotation with Corbin and Verlander and Herman and Wheeler, this guy is a really solid number 5. The big thing about this matchup was Friday. Friday, we each had 3 starters going. And, excuse me, it was 3 of his biggest ones against 2 of my biggest ones in a streamer. He had Corbin, Turnbull, and Wheeler going. I had Bauer, Barrios, and John Duplantier. For Andy, he went 15 2/3, 2-1 record, 11 earned runs, 3 homers, 12 strikeouts, and a walk. The worst was actually what would be considered his best pitcher in that trio. Patrick Corbin went 2 2/3, 6 earned, 8 total, a home run, 1 strikeout, and the loss. It was a really, really bad start for him in Cincinnati, and it was pretty surprising to see considering his last time out he went a complete game shutout against Miami. For me, it was 19 2/3 innings, an 0-1 average, 9 earned runs, a homer, 20 strikeouts, and 6 walks. Barrios had a good start. It was a quality start, 6 2/3, 3 earned, 8 strikeouts, and a no decision. Duplantier, in his debut, went 5 innings, 3 earned, 4 strikeouts, and a no decision against the Mets. Trevor Bauer is the one that was most frustrating. He pitched well. He had 8 strikeouts. He only gave up 1 walk. He went 7 innings. His defense just continually let him down. Frankie Lindor overthrew first base that led to 2 runs. He gave up 6 runs total, but only 3 of those were earned because of the poor defense. Overall, again, solid week for me. I stay at number 2. I've now won the last 2 straight, 14-7. Andy, unfortunately, falls from 8th to 10th with this loss. He's now 11 games under 500. He's going to have to start putting some wins together, as he's lost 5 of his last 7 now. I believe... Yeah, 5 of his last 7. And 4 of his last 5. So he's got to get this thing righted, and quickly. We move on. We move on to Teoscar Named Desire. This is the matchup of the week, by the way, guys. Teoscar Named Desire versus We Met on Pinder. It was Mike Haber against Ben Nisman. 2 of the hottest, but not the hottest, 2 of the hottest teams in the league. Mike comes in winning 3 of his last 4, and Ben has not lost in his last 6 matchups. He hasn't lost since he lost to me in week 2, 15-4. He has 2 ties in that time. That includes this week, as these guys tied 9-9. Close categories this week. Ben wins by .004 on base percentage and by 1 loss. Mike wins by 1 double thanks to a James McCann stat correction I'll get to in a minute, and a win. They tied in triples, home runs, and walks. We'll start with Mike. By the way, guys, this matchup was incredibly close all week. The furthest it got from either one of them, Mike had a 12-4 lead after Wednesday. And from there, it was a dogfight. An absolute dogfight all the way down to the end. And it's no surprise to me that this ends up being 9-9. Mike's totals for the week: 4 for 22. That's a 181 batting average. 2 runs, an RBI, a walk, and 8 strikeouts. Given that the matchup was as close as it is, to have a 181 batting average on your bench is fantastic. Mike didn't win average. He didn't win runs or RBIs. So these stats are not too big a deal, all things considered. As far as moves are concerned, he dropped Clint Frazier, which was kind of surprising. Again, I talked about him last week. You know, Ben dropped him early last week because he was afraid he was going to get sent down because he was struggling. Mike picked him up and played him for the majority of this week, or at least half of this week. It sounds like he's still struggling, but I don't know. The kid's played decently. I don't see why, maybe it's only because I don't have him on my team. I don't know the frustration of owning him. He streamed a Martin Perez start on the 30th, and that is going to be one of the worst starts of the week. 2 2/3. It looks like 8 earned runs against Tampa, a 20.25 ERA, and a 3 WHIP. Just a horrible start that put him really behind as far as pitching stats are concerned. For Benji went 0-4 with a strikeout on his bench all week. I don't think anybody's ever going to beat that. That's an incredibly stingy bench stats to put up this week. He did, however, have 2 really bad starts We'll start with the fact that he benched Steven Matz on the 28th. 6 innings, 6 strikeouts, a win, 3 walks, and 1 home run against the Dodgers. He benched Matz pretty early in the week. You know, he's benched him a couple of times now, and he's had good starts. He's kind of a crapshoot. You know, you don't know whether you're going to get good Steven or bad Steven. But it seems like whenever Ben benches him, he does well. And if somebody could figure out what the formula is and trade for him, he could be a really valuable asset going forward. Unfortunately, Ben also played Kevin Gausman this week against Washington. Guy went 1 inning, got into the second, gave up 7 earned runs, 2 walks, a strikeout. Obviously took the loss. It was a 72 ERA and a 10 whip. And that was on Wednesday. By then, Ben was just playing whoever because there's really no reason not to. You know, your ERA is that shot to shit, you may as well play the guys. And he played Kyle Freeland, who went 3 innings, 5 earned, 2 homers, and a strikeout at home against Arizona, which equates to a 15 ERA and a 2.33 whip. He pitched to a 5.35 ERA this week with a 1.54 whip. That's not going to get it done. He only won 3 pitching stats this week in losses, saves, and relief appearances. And saves and relief appearances, Ben is going to win every week. He's absolutely guaranteed 2 stats every week. Even trading off Raisel Iglesias this week, which I don't know about anybody else, but does anybody think that somebody overpaid for Raisel Iglesias and giving up Trey Turner? I do. The big moves this week for Benji, he on Monday, he picked up Blake Swihart, who went 0 for 4 with a strikeout. The next day he picked up Colton Wong, who went 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts, and Carl Yastrzemski's grandkid, who went 0 for 4 with a strikeout. He picked up Jason Hayward, who did well. He picked up Matt Adams, who did well. The big one, though, came on Sunday. He picked up Miles Straw very late. Now, Miles Straw is the call-up for Houston, who's going to be covering for Carlos Correa while he recovers from this massage injury of a broken rib. Miles Straw is incredibly fast. He has absolutely no power. He will score a bunch of runs in that Houston lineup. But the big thing he's going to do is steal bases. And he single-handedly won Ben steals this week with 3 on Sunday. You cannot underscore how huge it is to get a guy like that into your lineup when nobody's stolen a base in this matchup yet, and you see Miles Straw stealing bases at will on a Sunday. Key players this week for Ben, Carlos Santana came to play yet again this week. This guy is on fire this year. 296 average, 406 on base percentage, 5 runs, a double, a triple, 2 homers, 8 RBIs, 5 walks, 9 strikeouts. Cleveland has themselves a hell of a player in this guy. And, you know, he's hitting 286 this year, 11 homers, 37 RBIs. If he can continue to hit at a 270 clip, he's gonna have an OBP over 400. He walks that much, and he just does not strike out as much as you'd think. Avisail Garcia, before he went down with his leg injury, was really nice for him. Hit 500 for the week, a 550 on base percentage, 5 runs, a double, a homer, 3 RBIs, a walk, and 2 strikeouts. And finally, like I said, Miles Straw, the one game he came in, he scored 3 runs, he stole 3 bases, he got a walk, he hit 375, he had a 444 on base percentage. You cannot ask for anything more of a guy you pick up for a Sunday than to single-handedly win you a category. Pitching-wise, it's three closers. It's Jansen, it's Chapman, it's Oberg. That is a combined 8 saves, no earned runs, 9 relief appearances, 12 strikeouts. And that's 3 of his 4 best closers, because I'm not including Blake Treinen in this. Ben's got the best bullpen I've ever seen put together. For Mike, Jock Peterson hit 357 with no walks, so the same on base percentage. 5 runs, a double, 3 homers, 4 RBIs, and 3 strikeouts. Jock Peterson bounced around this league a little bit here to start the season. Ben drafted him in the final round with the 4th pick in that round. Dropped him. And I remember James McCloskey, Stanton Room Only, was thinking about picking him up right when Mike grabbed him. And he says, I'm really going to regret that one because I really wanted to get this guy. Being a Dodgers fan, he's going to be a homer for his guys. But Jock Peterson, he may not play every day, but holy shit, this dude's hitting 272 with 18 homers and 33 RBIs. This dude, you get into the lineup if he's playing. Michael Chavis had a good week for him as well. Chavis, interestingly enough, he hit 400 for the week, a 538 on base percentage. He had a run, an RBI, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. And very late Sunday night, the Red Sox were playing the Yankees, and Michael Chavis ripped a triple, and it tied the score in triples. And Chavis single-handedly basically tied this score for Mike and has him not take the L. Finally, Edwin Encarnacion, he had 2 homers, 3 RBIs, a 300 average, a 333 on base percentage with 2 runs scored. Pitching-wise, it's Aaron Nola, 7 innings, 8 strikeouts, 1 earned run, and a win. The start was against St. Louis at home. Not more to say there. John Means is like the only bright spot for the Baltimore pitching staff. 6 innings, 7 strikeouts, 1 earned. And the start was at home against Detroit. He's pitching to a 2.80 ERA. Now, I don't know where this kid has come from. He's not going to have a whole lot of wins. Granted, he's got 5 of them already, but it's Baltimore. They're a bad team. They play in a bandbox of a stadium in Camden Yards. There's no surprise that this team, as far as their pitching staff is concerned, has given up the most home runs in the league. The ballpark itself is the second best hitter ballpark behind Coors. And yet this guy is somehow putting it together and doing well. If he's the lone bright spot for Baltimore this year, then Mike's got himself another solid pitcher. Finally, Adrian Sampson this week had a good start for him. 7 innings, 11 strikeouts, 1 earned run. The start was against Kansas City. Sampson's pitched to a 4.14 ERA. He's bounced around the league as well. He's been on 3 different teams before Mike. To me, he's just a Jody. Just another guy. We'll see if he continues to put this together. This matchup was so incredibly close. Sunday was an insane day, but I want to highlight Friday first. Friday, both of these guys, either due to rainouts or sitting or injury, had open roster spots. And I was texting with Ben, and he says, I wonder what Mike's going to do. And I said, I'm pretty sure Mike's going to pick up a guy. Like, you're going to have to pick somebody up. And he goes, yeah. He goes, I'm going to wait to see what happens. He goes, there's a lot of games starting at 4 o'clock my time, which is 7 o'clock East Coast. He goes, but I think I'm going to wait until about 6, see what he does. And if he picks somebody up, then I'll respond with a move. And I said, well, Ben, there's a few interesting guys that you might want to take a look at. The first one that he talked about was Robbie Grossman. And we talked about a couple of Marlins players, Austin Dean, Garrett Cooper. We talked about the LA outfielder, Cesar Puello, who's come up. Talked about Adam Frazier, who was hitting at the bottom of the Pirates lineup. We talked about Marwin Gonzalez, who was hitting, I think, in the middle of the Twins lineup. I brought up Randall Grichuk, who Ben had no interest in, but he was playing in Colorado in the middle of the Toronto lineup. As it turns out, Mike picks up Dom Smith in Arizona against Duplantier. He goes 1 for 3 with 2 walks and a strikeout. And Ben, in response, with all of those guys we just talked about, picks up Nick Williams, who batted like 6th or 7th in the Philly lineup in LA against Kenta Maeda, who went 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts. In a matchup that close, that kind of pickup does matter. It absolutely matters. To highlight that, Randall Grichuk hit a 2-run homer in Colorado. Robbie Grossman went 1 for 4 at home against Houston. Garrett Cooper went 1 for 4 with a run in San Diego. Adam Frazier went 1 for 2 with an RBI and 2 walks at home against Milwaukee. And Marwin Gonzalez had the best one of them all, 2 for 3, a run, a double, a homer, and 2 RBIs in Tampa. You know, I had a rant a few weeks back about making sure that you're picking up the right guy, making sure you're picking him up for the right reasons, and make sure that that this guy is playing when you pick him up. This is why. This is exactly why. In a matchup this close, where on-base percentage is determined by .003, and batting average is determined by 13 points. You know, if it's that close, one move like this matters. If Ben picks up Marwin Gonzalez instead, it completely changes the outcome of this matchup. If Mike picks up somebody who doesn't play that day, it's a completely different outcome. Sunday, it was even closer, right? And they came into that day, and Mike was down 9-7. Offensively for Ben, he hit .207. He scored 6 runs. He had 2 doubles. He hit a homer, 2 RBIs. He had those 3 steals from Miles Straw, a walk, and 7 strikeouts. Ben, at the time, tied doubles that he was behind, with Trey Turner getting one of them, who he just traded for. It was his first day in the lineup. He won steals because of Miles Straw, and he lost walks because of the pitching performances that he did. Adam Wainwright especially, who had 7 walks in his start. Now, it was a good start. It went 8 innings. He only gave up 1 run, but his 7 walks, when he lost walks by 6, it's a pretty big deal. For Mike, he hit .265 with 2 runs, a double, a triple, a homer, 4 RBIs, a walk, and 4 strikeouts. Mike Chavis tied triples. He lost himself losses because CC Sabathia took the loss very late. And he flipped strikeouts from losing it to winning by 16, mostly in part to Adrian Sampson's start on Sunday, where he picked up 11 strikeouts. The biggest thing, though, when the night was over, Ben was winning this thing 9-8. And just before I headed home from work, I figured I'll look over it one more time. I'll look over my notes and see what I find. And I saw that this matchup was tied, and I couldn't figure out what had happened. So I opened up the matchup, and all of a sudden, Mike's got 11 doubles instead of 10. Well, where did the other double come from? At the end of the week, Yahoo goes through and adds and subtracts stat corrections. You can look at this by... at the top of the league, you'll see the Players tab. If you hover over it, don't click on it, you'll see a pull-down menu, and at the bottom of that, it says Stat Corrections. And this will pull up a page where all of the changes that were done for every week are tabulated. If you click on week 9, you'll see maybe the 5th name down is James McCann. And James McCann is on Teoscar named Desire, and he got an extra double. And that extra double is the difference here between a loss and a tie for Mike Haber. If Mike makes the playoffs by 1 game, you can point to that double as the reason he made the playoffs. We move on. And we move on to the number 4 team in the league coming into last week. It was Jimmy Dunlap, JD17, taking on Josh Haber. Well, I'll be damned. And Jimmy takes this one down 14-5. Jimmy had lost 2 of his last 3 after starting the year on a 6-game winning streak. So he wanted to get off the schneid, and he certainly did so. Josh had lost 5 of his last 6, now 6 of his last 7. And I wonder how many of those are in a row now. Looks like, well, he won in week 8 over Frank. So that's, he's now lost 1 in a row again. For the close categories this week, Jimmy won by a double, a double, 2 wins, 2 losses, and 2 saves. Josh did not win anything close. He only won 5 categories. And they tied in triples and home runs given up by a pitcher. For Jimmy on his bench, he went 11 for 34. That's a .324 batting average, 5 runs, 3 doubles, a homer, 5 RBIs, a stolen base, 2 walks, and 7 strikeouts. None of these really hurt. He won all of those categories and won a lot of them fairly handily. Homers and runs and walks especially, he won fairly handily. The couple of things I saw on Saturday, he went 4 for 8 with 2 runs, 2 doubles, a steal, a walk, and a strikeout on his bench. But the thing about that was everybody got a hit that day for him. So if you take one person out of the lineup, well, now those stats go on the bench. So I'm not going to fault him for that. It turned that matchup from 9-9 to 12-7, and then eventually flipped 2 more categories, making it 14-5 by week's end. Jimmy put the hammer down starting Saturday and didn't let go. It looks like Jimmy wasted a move on Harold Ramirez, as on the 28th he dropped Harold Ramirez for Jarrod Dyson. Didn't play Jarrod Dyson on the 29th, and then dropped Jarrod Dyson on the 30th back for Harold Ramirez. I don't know. Those guys seem pretty interchangeable to me. One's fast, one hits a lot of ground balls. Overall, it was just a solid week for Jimmy. For Josh, okay. On Josh's bench, he went 7 for 56. That's a .304 batting average, 11 runs, 5 doubles, a triple, 3 homers, 8 RBIs, 4 walks, 15 strikeouts, and 3 errors. Those stats would have flipped doubles, triples, RBIs, average, and on-base percentage. That's not why I'm mad. That's not why I'm pulling my hair out this week. Let's see if we can catch a common theme in what I'm going to say here. On Tuesday, he went 3 for 9 with 3 runs, a double, a homer, an RBI, and a strikeout on the bench. 2 for 4 with 2 runs and a double was Josh Donaldson, and Kyle Seager was 0 for 5 at third base. On Friday, he went 6 for 13 with 5 runs, a double, 2 homers, 3 RBIs, 4 strikeouts, and an error on the bench. Niko Goodrum went 5 for 5 with 2 homers, 4 runs, 3 RBIs, and a double on the bench. The entire team hit 167. And Josh Donaldson was on the bench again with Kyle Seager starting at third base. On Saturday, he went 2 for 12 with a run, a double, a triple, an RBI, a walk, 2 strikeouts, and an error. Niko Goodrum hit the double and the triple the day after going 5 for 5. Kyle Seager went 1 for 4 with 3 strikeouts at third base. And finally on Sunday, he went 3 for 10 with a run, a double, an RBI, 3 walks, and 2 strikeouts. Kurt Suzuki went 2 for 3 with a double, an RBI, and a walk on his bench, and Yan Gomes didn't play. Why on earth are you playing Kyle fucking Seager at third base over Josh Donaldson and a guy who's obviously really hot right now in Niko Goodrum. Kyle Seager came back from injury on May the 25th. He had missed the entire start of the season for, what, a wrist injury? A torn tendon in his left hand? Do you think this guy can hit after recovering from a torn tendon in his hand? The guy couldn't fucking hit last year. I know. I owned him. He hit 221 last year. What do you think he's going to hit this year? He hit 241 the year before that. Do you really think this guy needs to be starting over a guy like Niko Goodrum, who apparently is tearing the cover off the ball in his last 5 games? He's got a hit in 11 of his last 12 games. He's got a hit. He went 5 for 5 on the 31st of May with 2 homers and 3 RBIs. He had a triple on Saturday. And he's riding your bench. For Kyle Seager, who, since coming back, has hit 257 with a homer and 2 RBIs. He scored 5 runs. He has 2 doubles. He hasn't been atrocious. But you are starting him over a guy like Josh Donaldson, who has 7 homers and 22 RBIs. You are still making the Kurt Suzuki, Yan Gomes bullshit. They play on the same fucking team. If one of them has an X next to him, the other one's going to have a green check mark. And you make the swap. It's no surprise that Josh is 30 games under 500 in 14th place with all of these things that I'm pointing out. He made 3 roster moves this week. He dropped 2 guys that don't matter. He picked up a reliever for another reliever who went on the injured list. Doesn't matter. Key players this week for Jimmy. First is Max Muncy. Max Muncy hit 385 with a 452 on base percentage. 7 runs, 3 doubles, 2 homers, 5 RBIs, 4 walks, and 7 strikeouts. Keston Hiura's been really good for him since coming up. 320 batting average, 370 on base, 5 runs, a double, 3 homers, 7 RBIs, 2 walks, and 6 strikeouts. This kid is going to steal Travis Shaw's job. And it's not even close. Travis Shaw has played like shit. Gary Sanchez is the third one here. 278 average, 350 on base percentage, 5 runs, 3 homers, 4 RBIs. This guy's hit, 18 homers in like 40 games? He's been absolutely ridiculous. Pitching-wise for Jimmy, it was Matt Boyd. Matt Boyd threw 6 innings, shutout ball, 8 strikeouts, a 1.17 whip. The start was in Baltimore. I'm not surprised that he dominated the Orioles like he did. Second is Lance Lynn, 12 1/3, a win, a loss, 17 strikeouts over that time with 3 walks. The starts were in Seattle and against Kansas City at home. The better start, it really depends on how you want to look at it. The better start was probably the one at home against Kansas City. 6 1/3, a win, 7 strikeouts, 2 earned runs. But the start against Seattle was not bad, 6 innings. He did take the loss, gave up 3 earned runs over those 6 innings, but had 10 strikeouts. He's been solid. And finally, Brad Hand. Brad Hand got him 3 saves over 3 relief appearances with 5 strikeouts. You know, he single-handedly won him the saves category. For Josh, Marcell Ozuna had a good week. 409 average, 391 on base percentage. He didn't get a walk. 2 homers, 6 RBIs, 4 runs, and a double. Bryce Harper might finally be coming to life. 417 average, no walks, so the same on base percentage. 4 runs, 5 doubles, 2 homers, 9 RBIs. And finally is Drupal Cabrera, a guy whose name I haven't said this week or at all this season. 368 average, 520 on base percentage, 4 runs, a double, 4 RBIs, 6 walks, and 4 strikeouts. Pitching-wise for Josh, it was Kyle Hendricks who had a great start. 8 innings, 7 strikeouts, 1 earned run in Houston. Robert Gazelman gave him 4 relief appearances, and Joaquim Soria gave him 3 relief appearances. One of the only categories that he won was relief appearances. So there you go. Like I said, Jimmy stays in 4th place. Josh falls to 14th. Josh has lost 6 of his last 7 matchups. Keep playing Kyle Seager. See how it goes. We move on. We move on to Angels in the Trout field. Bobby Russo taking on Chris Levy. Chris Levy, a few weeks back, let me find out what week it was. Chris Levy, at one point, was the worst team in this league. He was 8-28. He was 14-41, maybe somewhere in there. Yeah, 13-41 after week 3. He had lost 18-0 to Mike Haber and lost 13-6 to James McCloskey. He's only lost once since and has clawed all the way back to being 3 games under 500. He's had a fantastic 6-week run here, where he's lost 5, or he's won 5 of his last 6 matchups. And this week he took on a top contender in Bobby and crushed him 16-5. 16-5 is nothing to shake a stick at. Close categories this week. Chris won by a homer and a steal. Bobby won by a save and 2 strikeouts, and they did not tie in anything. For Chris this week, he went 2 for 20 on his bench. That's a 100 batting average, a run, a homer, an RBI, 4 walks, 6 strikeouts, and an error. The only thing that I'll point a finger at, Maikel Franco went 1 for 4 with a home run on the bench on Wednesday. Eduardo Escobar went 0 for 5 with 4 strikeouts at third base, and Dansby Swanson went 0 for 4 at utility. That's it. That's literally the one poor move, and he won average by a lot. He won on base percentage by a lot. He won homer and RBI. What am I gonna do? I'm nitpicking here. He only made 2 roster moves. He dropped Christian Walker, which makes sense, and he picked up Devin Smeltzer driver. Kudos to anybody who gets that reference. For Bobby, he went 12 for 38. That's a .316 batting average, 9 runs, 3 doubles, 3 homers, 8 RBIs, 4 walks, and 11 strikeouts on his bench this week. The big day and the big blow is Saturday. Adam Jones went 2 for 5 with 2 runs, a double, a homer, and 2 RBI on the bench, and Brett Gardner only went 1 for 4 in left field. And Brian Dozier went 2 for 4 with 2 runs and a homer on the bench. Jurickson Profar 0 for 2 at second base. Bobby's second base situation is not good. It's Brian Dozier and it's Jurickson Profar. He kind of gets Ketel Marte in there, but then that weakens his shortstop situation. I think he's really waiting for Jed Lowry to come back, but Lowry is not coming anytime soon. He's plugging in guys like Daniel Robertson and Hanser Alberto in there, trying to find ways to get a solid second baseman in there. But his infield, other than Ketel Marte and Will Myers when he plays him at third, is kind of a mess. And I don't see why Bobby isn't making a move for something of that ilk. Pickups and drops this week. He streamed Ryan Stanek, who is the continual opener for Tampa Bay. He streamed Drew Pomeranz. That did not work. He streamed Ivan Nova. That kind of worked. 2 homers, 3 strikeouts, 7 innings, and a loss. It kind of worked. I'll get to that in a little bit. the key players this week for Chris. Chris had a huge week from Trevor Story. Trevor Story hit .524 with a .583 on base percentage, 9 runs, 3 doubles, a triple, 2 homers, 7 RBIs, 2 steals, 3 walks, and 5 strikeouts with 2 errors. In any other week, he would probably be the player of the week, but spoiler alert, it's not him. Eduardo Escobar had a good week as well. 300 average, 333 on base percentage, 5 runs, a triple, 3 homers, 9 RBIs, a steal, 2 walks, and 10 strikeouts. And finally, Michael Brantley. You know, I highlighted him a few weeks back. He's still hitting 329. And this week he hit 409 with a 519 on base percentage, a run, 2 doubles, 3 RBIs, and 4 walks with no strikeouts. How did Houston, arguably the best team in the AL, add a guy like Michael Brantley on the cheap? What an incredible pickup by them. Pitching-wise, Lucas Giolito continues to put it all together. He threw 15 and a third with 19 strikeouts this week. That's a 1.76 ERA with an 0.59 whip. He got 2 wins. He gave up 1 walk and 1 home run. The starts were both at home against Kansas City and Cleveland, an 8-inning win against Kansas City with 10 strikeouts. The only blemish against him was a 3-run home run in the first inning of that game. And from my understanding, that game started earlier than he had personally thought it was going to. So the thought was that he wasn't through his full warm-ups when the game started, and that contributed to the 3-run homer. But from then on, it was absolute domination for the next 14 and a third innings for the rest of the week. This kid is a former number 1 prospect. He is the key component of the Adam Eaton trade with Washington. And he is absolutely putting it together this year. He has a 2.54 ERA now, 78 strikeouts over 67 and a third innings. Something clicked after the Kansas City start on April 17th because he went on the IL for a minute, and since coming back for his May the 2nd start against Boston, he has been absolutely untouchable. David Price is another good one. He went 12 and a third innings, got a win, 12 strikeouts, a 1.46 ERA, and 0.89 whip. The starts were against Cleveland and in New York on Sunday. The better start is, I think, the New York start, despite the fact that he gave up 2 earned runs over 6 and a third. He got the win, 6 strikeouts. Cleveland, no decisions, 6 innings, 6 strikeouts. No earned runs. Finally, Alex Colomé, 3 saves in 4 appearances, no earned runs. He didn't win saves, but Colomé has been amazing for the White Sox this year. A 1.52 ERA, 12 saves. That's all you can ask for. For Bobby, Ketel Marte has been everything you can ask for and more. 321 average, 310 on base percentage, 4 runs, a double, 2 homers, 6 RBIs, and 3 strikeouts. Mike Trout continues to be the number 1 player in baseball. 381 average, 552 on base percentage, 8 walks this week, 5 runs, a double, 2 homers, and 7 RBIs with a steal. One of those homers was an absolute bomb in what used to be Safeco. I think it's called T-Mobile Field now. And finally, Josh Bell, 297 average, 333 on base percentage, 5 runs, 4 doubles, 2 homers, 6 RBIs, 2 walks, and 9 strikeouts. This guy, Josh Bell, deserves MVP consideration, and he's not going to get it because he plays in the NL behind Cody Bellinger and Christian Yelich. But this guy deserves to be talked about in the same light as Bellinger and Yelich right now. And nobody is because he plays in Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh's a bad team. Bobby's pitching was pretty bad this week. He did win strikeouts and saves, but he pitched to a 4.61 ERA. He streamed a terrible Drew Pomeranz start. He had a bad Max Fried start. You know, those two are really the difference in ERA and WHIP. Bobby falls to 7th from 5th. Chris improves to 9th. And again, Chris might be the hottest team in the league. And he's got me this week. So we'll see what happens. We move on to witness protection. Jason Ashby, who is 500 on the season as far as wins and losses are concerned. He has alternated wins and losses in a fairly regular pattern, taking on Kikuchi Barry Nisman, who lost 4 of his last 5. Close categories this week. Jason won by 2 triples, 2 wins, 2 saves. Barry won by a home run, 2 losses, 2 homers, and they tied in nothing. For Jason, who won, by the way, 11-10, very close matchup this week, although he had it pretty well in hand by midweek. He was up 12-7, even 12-5 on Friday. He went 9 for 40 on his bench, 225 batting average, 4 runs, a double, a triple, a homer, 6 RBIs, 10 strikeouts, and an error. The only thing that struck me was on Wednesday, he went 4 for 9 with 2 runs, a triple, a homer, 4 RBIs, and a strikeout, but his entire team went off that day. So to try to get those guys into the lineup would have been impossible because everybody except for 2 players, and one of which was his catcher, had multi-hit games. So it's impossible to try to move that in and out of the lineup. Ad drops for this week. He streamed Ronaldo Lopez. Looks like he added Dylan Bundy for whatever reason, because that guy's not very... He streamed him. And then, of course, he made the trade for Raisel Iglesias. I guess he really wanted to lock down the closer position after trading for Hector Neris earlier this season and having Kirby Yates, who's arguably the best closer in baseball this year. So with those 3, he can say that he's got a pretty solid bullpen. For Barry, 19 for 56 on the bench. That's a 339 batting average, 12 runs, 3 doubles, a triple, 6 RBIs, 6 walks, 13 strikeouts, and 2 errors. A lot of this is decision making. A lot of this is a flip of a coin that Barry's making just the wrong flip of a coin decision. Leury Garcia went 3 for 4 on his bench on Tuesday. Gregory Polanco 0 for 4 in right field. Alex Gordon gets a triple on his bench on Friday. Leury Garcia is 1 for 4 in left field. Raimel Tapia goes 2 for 4 with 4 runs and a double on the bench. Leury Garcia is still 1 for 4 in left field. Like, either one of those 2 guys would have been better than Garcia in left. But Garcia's been playing really well lately. So I get why Barry is sort of having the disappointing season that he is so far, sitting in 13th coming into this week. He did improve to 11th, but that's more because the guys in front of him had shit weeks than him having a really good week. Key players, ad drops for this week. Nothing special from Barry. He picked up Chris Taylor and then dropped him. He's streaming catchers at this point and moving relievers in and out. Nothing of mention. Key players this week. Austin Meadows has been having an absolute wrecking ball of a season for Jason. This week, it was a .419 batting average, a .471 on base percentage, 8 runs, a double, 2 homers, 10 RBIs, 2 steals, 3 walks, and 5 strikeouts. Since coming back from the DL, he hasn't missed a beat. This guy has been on fire. He has multi-hit games in just about every single one of his last 10 games. He's hitting .357 on the season. He's absolutely just fucking nuts. Renato Nunez had a good week for him as well. 364 average, 417 on base percentage, 5 runs, 3 doubles, 3 homers, 6 RBIs, a walk, and 3 strikeouts. And Anthony Rendon hit 350 with a 519 on base percentage, 4 runs, a triple, 4 RBIs, 7 walks, and 4 strikeouts. Offensively, Jason did really well. You would think with those 3 guys and a couple of more that he would have dominated offensively, but Barry had just as good an offensive week. You know, it's the pitching that hurt Barry more, and I'll get to that in a minute. Pitching-wise for Jason, Max Scherzer had a great week, 14 innings, 21 strikeouts. Looks like 2 earned runs over those starts. 1 was against Miami, 6 innings, 6 strikeouts, and 1 was against Cincinnati, which is the start of the week. 8 innings, a win, 1 walk, 15 strikeouts on Sunday in Cincinnati. Kirby Yates, again, 2 relief appearances, 2 saves, no earned. What can you say? He's the best closer in baseball. And finally, Jake Odorizzi, 6 innings, a win, 9 strikeouts. The start came in Tampa. Tampa had been kind of owning the Twins in this matchup, in this short series, and Jake came in and just absolutely shut him down. The guy's pitching to a 196 ERA with an 096 whip. Do I think this continues all season? Absolutely not. You can't have... I don't think Jake Odorizzi pitches to a sub-2 ERA. But if he pitches to a 3.2 ERA for the full season, I'm pretty sure Jason will take that. For Uncle Barry, Xander Bogaerts led the way, 462 average, 481 on base percentage, 10 runs, 4 doubles, 3 homers, 6 RBIs, a walk, 4 strikeouts, and 2 errors. Yuli Gurriel had a good week for him as well, as soon as I can find him. 360 average, 385 on base percentage, 2 runs, 3 doubles, 4 RBIs, a steal, a walk, and 2 strikeouts. And finally, Starling Marte, 355 average, 412 on base percentage, 6 runs, a double, 2 homers, 6 RBIs, a steal, 2 walks, and 6 strikeouts. Pitching-wise is where it gets difficult for Barry. Zach Davies had a good start, 6 innings, 4 strikeouts, no decision. It was against Minnesota, in Minnesota. Looks like he benched him for a really good start against Pittsburgh this week as well. He went 8 innings, only gave up 2 earned runs and got the win, but it didn't tabulate in here, so it sounds like Barry benched him for that start. Miles Mikolas had a good start as well, 7 innings, 3 strikeouts. It's a no decision. It was against Chicago at home. Mikolas has not been what he was last year. He's pitching to a 4.41 ERA. He does not get strikeouts. He's only got 49 over 69 in a third innings. He's only got 4 wins. St. Louis is kind of struggling. And to think that Miles Mikolas was going to pitch to a sub-3 ERA like he did last year, it was kind of wishful thinking, in my opinion. I was off of Mikolas a lot. I thought last year was kind of an aberration, and he's kind of proving me right with that ERA. He's not terrible, like he's not unrosterable, but for a team that does not have an ace per se, and Mikolas was probably the highest drafted. Yeah, he drafted him in the 4th round. Obviously the ace of the staff at that point. He's just not pitching like it, and it shows. Barry pitched to a 6.65 ERA this week, a 170 whip. He's not getting the type of production you would expect. Barry's ERA is a 3.92. That's middle of the pack. His whip is 122. That's sort of toward the top. Actually, it's 120. It's second best in the league. But his strikeout numbers are way down. He's second to last in strikeouts. And it's certainly a testament to the fact that his ace just does not strike guys out. Again, these guys are now 5th and 11th respectively, as both of them improved despite thanks to the close matchup with all of the other blowouts. We move on to James Santangelo, Snell my shorts, crushing catcher in the Riley Frank Bucco 14-6 this week. James came into this week winning 2 of his last 3 matchups. Frank had lost 6 in a row. It's now 7 in a row. Close categories this week. James won by 1 homer. Frank won by a save and 2 strikeouts. And they tied in stolen bases. For James, it was a really good offensive week. And I'm going to say this now, and he already knows I'm going to say this. He's really lucky that he won a lot of the categories he did. He went 7 for 46 on his bench. That's a 152 batting average. It's a fantastic way to do. However, of those 7 hits he left on the bench, 5 runs, 2 doubles, a triple, a homer, 8 RBIs, a steal, 7 walks, and 14 strikeouts. Those 7 hits may not have been much in batting average, but counting stats, they were a lot. And for a matchup where he only won by 1 homer, only won by 3 RBIs, leaving that kind of shit on your bench is what will cost you in the long run. Specifically, on Wednesday, Brandon Belt went 1 for 4 with a 2-run homer and a steal on the bench, and Tyler White was still his first baseman. On Thursday, Christian Yelich was on his fucking bench inexplicably, and he tripled and went 1 for 4 with 2 runs. What? You benched Christian Yelich? And Tyler White wasn't starting at first base that day? Hallelujah. Why is Tyler White still on this team? I really want to know the answer to this question. Tyler White is hitting .216 on the season with a homer and 8 RBIs. He has not played in the last 2 games. He's fucking terrible. He's 13% owned across fucking Yahoo. Probably for guys like this who drafted him because, he might be the starting first baseman for Houston. And he's not. And he's bad. And you're not paying attention. He only made 3 roster moves this week. They don't matter. We'll go to Frank. Frank went 6 for 38. That's a 158 batting average. 3 runs, a double, 2 RBIs, 2 steals, 5 walks, and 16 strikeouts. The couple of difficult things this week were in Frank's pitching decisions. He won wins and losses. He won innings. He won strikeouts. All of those are in spite of starting Glenn Sparkman against Chicago, who went an inning, gave up 4 earned runs, and got thrown out of the game for throwing at Tim Anderson because apparently the Royals are the pettiest team in the league. And he also started Andrew Kashner against San Francisco at home. 5 innings, 6 earned, a homer, 5 walks. Didn't strike out anybody because he's Andrew Kashner and he's terrible. The start wasn't as terrible as it should have been. It should have been a whole lot worse. He was just facing the worst offense in the league in San Francisco. I mean, it's between them and the Marlins, right? Like, they're pretty terrible. Once again, Frank maxed out on roster moves by Friday because he picked up Steve Pearce to start at first base in a spot start for him. And Steve Pearce went 0 for 1 and got taken out and got put on the DL. So, good job. Key players this week for James, Mike Moustakas. Mike Moustakas had a good week for him. He batted .333 with a .391 on base percentage. 5 runs, a double, 3 homers, 5 RBIs, a walk, and 5 strikeouts. David Dahl, they must have played in Colorado a lot this week. Correct. All 7 games. Or 6 games, whatever they had. .464 average, .531 on base percentage, 7 runs, 3 doubles, 2 homers, 5 RBIs, 4 walks, and 5 strikeouts. You can tell how well a Colorado player does by how much they produce at home. Daniel Murphy had 9 RBIs this week, and he's not the guy I'm going to highlight. It's Matt Carpenter, who hit 400 and a 455 on base, 2 runs, a homer, 3 RBIs, a walk, and 3 strikeouts. Pitching-wise, it was Joey Lucchesi, 6 and a third with a win, 5 strikeouts, a 1.42 ERA. The start was at home against Miami, so take it for what it is. Dakota Hudson was a good start as well, 6 innings, 4 strikeouts, 3 walks, a 1.50 ERA. Start was in Philadelphia, good start for him. And finally, Rich Hill, 6 innings, 6 strikeouts, looks like 2 earned runs. The start was against the Mets at home. Looks like he benched him for the even better start against Philly at home on Sunday with 9 strikeouts and 7 innings and a win. Oh well. For Frank, it's JD Martinez, who apparently he feels like trading lately. I don't fucking know anymore what life is if you're going to trade JD Martinez. It's 250 average, 276 on base percentage, 5 runs, 2 doubles, 3 homers, 3 RBIs. Robinson Chirinos, 364 average, 417 on base percentage, 3 runs, a double, a homer, 3 RBIs, a walk, and a strikeout. And finally, it's the new Jeff Francoeur. That's it. I've said it. Austin Riley is the new Jeff Francoeur. He hit 316 this week with a 350 on base percentage, 3 homers, 8 RBIs, 4 runs scored, a walk, and 7 strikeouts. The kid's been absolutely on fire. He's hit 8 homers in like 20 games. Been ridiculous. It's not going to last. It's not going to last. Jeff Francoeur had the most ridiculous month when he first came up. And you remember how good he was? Oh, wait. He wasn't. Bold prediction. Austin Riley is the new Jeff Francoeur. Why do I say this? I'm going to go ahead and name you the pitchers that Austin Riley has taken deep in his first 2 weeks of his career. And let me tell you that they are not a who's who of Cy Young candidates and Hall of Famers and, guys I would be afraid to start anybody against. I once said during the 2015 playoffs that Daniel Murphy turned into Babe Ruth because he homered off of John Lester and Clayton Kershaw and Jake Arrieta and Zach Greinke and this who's who of pitchers. This is the list for Austin Riley: Michael Wacha, Alex Claudio, Andrew Suarez, Derek Holland, Tony Watson, Kyle Barraclough, Kevin McGowan, Daniel Norris. Who are you afraid of in that list? I might have been afraid of Kyle Barraclough a few years ago when he was in Miami. I might have been afraid of Derek Holland last year in the second half at home. I might have been afraid of Michael Wacha 5, 6, 7 years ago. These are nobodies. He's a flash in the pan. He'll be great for another 3 weeks, maybe. He's already starting to cool off. He's 1 for his last 11. Granted, the one's a homer. It was a homer off of Daniel Norris. It's Austin Riley. He's nothing. He's going to be a flash in the pan. Hot take. We move on. We finally move on to the bottom feeder matchup of the week. It's Kershaw for pass over Mike Sherman, who has lost 3 of his last 4, against Ari Nisman bumping Uglas, who won 2 of his last 3. Close categories this week. Mike wins 11-8. He moves to 12th. Ari moves to 15th. He's out of the basement, everybody. The climb has begun. He is 38 games under 500. Good luck, Ari. I really hope you do it. I really, really do. Close categories this week. Mike won by a triple, 2 homers, a loss, and a save. Ari won by 2 strikeouts, .001 batting average because of a Nolan Arenado stat correction very late that gave him an extra hit that moved it from 297 to 301 and got him that win. They tied in wins and home runs given up by a pitcher. For Mike on his bench, he went 3 for 11. That's a 273 batting average with a run, 4 strikeouts. Had a great start from Sandy Alcantara on the bench on Thursday. 6 innings, 3 earned against San Francisco. It was the third of those starts with Trevor Richards, Pablo Lopez, and now Sandy Alcantara. I really wanted to have that start too, which would have been really nice. Unfortunately, Mike's hanging on to Sandy Alcantara, and I don't blame him. He's a good young pitcher. On Friday, Mike had a really good pitching day, 22 2/3 innings, 3-1 with 17 strikeouts, a 2.78 ERA, and a 106 WHIP. Mike led this matchup basically the whole way, and led it fairly well. It was as far north as 15-5 going into Sunday. So to see Ari flip 3 or 4 categories is really, really a testament to how good Ari can be. I just think his team is underperforming for the season. Only 2 roster moves from Mike this week. Nothing of note. Ari, 20 for 92. That's a 217 batting average. 8 runs, 5 doubles, 2 homers, 16 RBIs, 12 walks, 19 strikeouts, and an error. With that many guys on his bench, 92 at-bats, you're going to see a lot of counting stats, right? So 5 doubles don't matter. 2 homers, that would have mattered. 16 RBIs, that would have mattered. The big ones were Jake Bauers, 2 runs, a double, and an RBI on the bench while Jay Bruce didn't play first base on Wednesday. And on Saturday, Cole Calhoun hit a 2-run homer on the bench. Ian Desmond was 0 for 3 and left. Jake Bauers went 1 for 2 with 2 runs, a double, and 2 walks on the bench, and Jay Bruce still wasn't playing because Seattle was in the midst of trading him. Nothing special to write home about as far as moves for Ari. Key players this week for Mike: Derek Dietrich. 409 average, 458 on base percentage, 4 runs, a double, 4 homers, 9 RBIs, a walk, and 7 strikeouts. Derek Dietrich has been absolutely a monster this year. And I can't explain it. Like, he had three homers in 1 game earlier this week. He still doesn't play every day, which is surprising because Cincinnati doesn't have a reason not to play him. And when Scooter Gennett comes back, he's going to lose time at second base now. So where do they play him? Pete Alonso had a great week for him as well. 345 average, 367 on base percentage, 2 runs, 3 doubles, a triple, 2 homers, 6 RBIs, and 5 strikeouts. And Luke Voit, the other New York first baseman, 364 average, 440 on base, 5 runs, a triple, 2 homers, and 2 RBIs with 3 walks and 8 strikeouts. Pitching-wise for Mike, going to be German Marquez, 7 innings, 7 strikeouts, looks like 2 earned runs. The start was at home against Toronto. It was the game in which Randall Grichuk went deep that I talked about earlier. Clayton Kershaw, 13 innings, 277 ERA, 11 strikeouts. The starts were against the Mets and Philadelphia. And finally, Sean Kelly, got him a save, 3 relief appearances, nothing earned. It was as good as can be expected. For Ari, again, man, Ari's going to go how the Colorado Rockies go. So when they're home, he'll do well, and when they're on the road, he won't. Nolan Arenado, 423 average, 516 on base percentage, 7 runs, 2 doubles, a homer, 8 RBIs, 4 walks, and 3 strikeouts. Ian Desmond, 368 average, 429 on base percentage, 4 runs, 3 doubles, a homer, and an RBI, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts. And Brian Reynolds was the surprising pickup that I've seen from Ari. 462 average, 517 on base percentage, 8 runs, 2 doubles, a homer, 3 RBIs, 3 walks, and 6 strikeouts. I talked about this kid last week because he homered off of Carlos Estevez in Pittsburgh like the day that Ari picked him up. And now this kid all of a sudden is like a starting outfielder for them. I think he's going to be the future for this team with Starling Marte and Jorge Polanco in the outfield. Fantastic pickup, Ari. Great find. Pitching-wise, Jose Urena was pretty good. 13 innings, 2 wins, 10 strikeouts. The fact that the Marlins pitcher got 2 wins in the same week against in Washington and in San Diego, that probably won't happen again this week, or happen again this year. Jeff Samardzija, 10 innings, a win, a loss, 10 strikeouts. Those starts were one against Baltimore and one against Miami. He lost the start against Miami, and badly. And Hector Rondon, 4 relief appearances, 3 2/3 with a win. Let's see where I'm at right now. Wow. Okay. Best starts of the week. I talked about the Max Scherzer start with 15 strikeouts over 8 innings. Andy had Justin Verlander on Saturday against Oakland. 8 innings, 8 strikeouts, the solo homer, a win, 1 earned run. James, Hyun-Jin Ryu on Thursday against the Mets. 7 2/3, 7 strikeouts, a walk, no earned runs, and a win. The best weekly performance of any player, I'm going to give it to Derek Dietrich. The 409, 458 average for a part-time player with 4 homers and 9 RBIs. He's been on fire. He's getting a ton of hype right now. I just hope Cincinnati finds a way to get him in the lineup every day because there's absolutely no reason he can't be. The worst starts of the week, Ben started Kevin Gausman with a 72 ERA and a 10 whip. Frank started Glenn Sparkman, 1 inning, 36 ERA, 3 whip. Mike Haber started Martin Perez against Tampa, 2 2/3, 8 earned runs at the 20.25 ERA and a 3 whip. And on Friday, Bobby started Drew Pomeranz, an inning and a third, 8 earned runs. That's a 54 ERA and a 6 whip. The worst weekly performance of a top 2-round player? It's my guy. It's Javier Baez, 118 average, 167 on base percentage with a walk and 10 strikeouts. He had an awful week. He only had 2 hits and a walk. It was awful. I still won. Best streamers this week. Trevor Richards went 7 innings, an earned run, 5 strikeouts and a win. That was for me on Tuesday. On Wednesday, again against San Francisco, Pablo Lopez, 6 innings, 1 earned run, a walk, 5 strikeouts, and a win. And on Saturday, James streamed Sean Anderson against Baltimore, 7 innings, 2 earned runs, 4 strikeouts, and a win. The final thing I'll leave you guys with, look, we are into week 10 now. We have a very decent sized sample of what our teams are and what our teams are not. I took a look at the number 6 seeds of the playoffs for the last 7 years. And I took their win totals and I averaged them out to figure out at least a ballpark figure of how many wins you're going to need to get to the playoffs. The number I came up with was 226.8. The lowest win total that got into the playoffs as the 6th seed in the last 7 years was 219, and the highest was 235. So it's going to be somewhere in between there. 226 is where I've got it pegged right now. If you extrapolate that out over 23 weeks, which is what we play in the regular season, it's about 10 wins a week. 9.8 to be exact. At that pace, a team should be somewhere near 88 wins to be in contention for the playoffs right now. 88 wins. There are 7 teams with more than 88 wins right now, and 2 teams with 87 wins. So that is 9 out of the 16 teams are what I would consider in the playoff hunt, with Andy Solar-Greco on the outside looking in with 82 wins. Anybody below Andy really needs to step their game up, really needs to put their ass in gear, or they're going to find themselves out of the playoffs this year. 226 is the number to shoot for this year. At least that's what I'm seeing. The thing about 226, James and I are already halfway to 224. And it's week 9. Or it's week 10 now. Come and get us, guys. Las Vegas is leading the way. You guys have a good week. I'll see you next time.